Kwe, welcome to the MPI BREAKS April edition. I want to recognize the Anishinaabe Algonquin people who have been the caregivers of these nurtured lands since time immemorial. The MPI Ottawa Chapter Board continues to recognize and to acknowledge our privilege to benefit from these unceded lands.
Monthly board meetings and regular committee meetings is how we're advancing the initiatives for the chapter as well as our strategic plan. I'm currently about to have an in-person meeting with two of your board members. Guess who it is? Before we jump into this month's MPI breaks, here's some news about what's coming up with the MPI Ottawa chapter.
Global Meetings Industry Day is right around the corner and may even have passed if you aren't seeing this video early enough. See you for GMID on Thursday, April 3rd. We can't wait to welcome you to the Sandman Signature Hotel to learn together from Jose Pirnan, who will speak on overcoming fears and building resilience in the context of change, all while we celebrate and educate those outside our industry about our collective impact. See you there.
Join us virtually Friday, April 25th, 2025 at 12 p.m. Eastern for the MPI Ottawa Chapter Annual General Meeting. We will review the 2023-2024 Annual Report, share updates about the chapter, and provide an outlook for 2025. Look forward to seeing you there.
Now let's get into this month's breaks, where I'm joined by Emma Brown, founder of WimbleCare. To quote from MPI Ottawa Chapter Invest Ottawa's profile on Emma Brown, after witnessing the challenges people with physical disabilities often face in managing their day-to-day, Emma Brown set out in 2021 to create WimbleCare, a marketplace platform connecting people with disabilities to skilled caregivers in their area who can help. Now 3 years into her journey, Emma was recently named Founder of the Year at the 2024 Bootstrap Awards, and WimbleCare is broadening its focus to partner and collaborate with event organizers aiming to enhance their accessibility at their in-person events. Hello, Emma. Thank you for joining us for this month's breaks.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you.
It's a pleasure. Let's start by sharing what you see as the most common barriers for people with disabilities when attending or participating in events, and how event planners can proactively address these.
There's so many. The number one thing I would say is I'd recommend to event planners that they integrate accessibility into their plans from the beginning and don't leave it to be an afterthought. And this can mean consulting with a person with a disability. There are tons of people out there who are happy to share insights and share their perspective on that specific event's like accessibility plan. And then there are also just a ton of really common themes that every event planner should take into consideration, from how are food and drinks being served? Are they being served in a way that's accessible to people who are using a mobility device or have vision impairment? What does the timing of the event look like? For people with disabilities who rely on personal care assistance, a really early morning breakfast meeting is usually not possible for them to attend because they are reliant on someone coming to their home to help them get out of bed, and that's on a fixed schedule. So being cognizant of like the lack of flexibility around care schedules is really important, especially with like early morning or late night events. Obviously physical accessibility of the space is really important. And yeah, I'd say the number one thing would just be start planning accessibility from the beginning and consult with people with lived experience.
Wonderful. Thank you. And that's a great tip around the timing and like fixed schedules. You also mentioned how food is being delivered. And I'm wondering, are there ways that suppliers, ID venues, caterers, tech providers can or should ensure accessibility is considered in the planning and every stage of the event?
Yes, so some common barriers we see at events are buffets. Like if you use a mobility device or you're vision impaired or have any type of issue with navigating a buffet on your own, event planners need to take that into consideration and have accommodations in place to support those guests or other volunteers or other staff with disabilities. High top tables, like at cocktail networking receptions, are typically not accessible or convenient for a person who's using a wheelchair. So same thing with bars that are like above standard table height. So getting a drink at a networking reception is really difficult. So just being aware of all those things and having, if you are forced to use those types of equipment or venue rentals, having a plan B in place of like, okay, well, make sure there's some lower tables interspersed throughout the space. Make sure there's a personal care attendant from Wimble available to help people navigate the buffet. Make sure the bartenders are aware that if someone does approach the bar who's using a mobility device, that the bartenders are briefed on how to best support that guest. So it's just a matter of thinking through those details to make sure that ideally the setting is set up in a way to be the most accessible, but if there are gaps, being able to communicate those and having the staff on site ready to address those gaps.
Yeah, and then I'm going to change my third question on you a little and ask if you can maybe elaborate on how the person from Wimble Care can support the event planners and event attendees.
Yes. So the way I typically describe it to event planners is the Wimble personal care attendants are basically on site to ensure your guests, your staff, your volunteers with disabilities have a smooth experience throughout the day. So it can be anything from, if there's a lunch buffet, an attendant who's there specifically to support people with disabilities in getting food from the buffet, getting it back to their seat. Some people require assistance cutting up their food, require assistance with feeding. So making sure there's a dedicated person there whose job is to support those individuals. And it's not up to the individuals to like awkwardly ask a colleague or a person they've just met at a conference for assistance. The attendant is also there to ensure that when everyone takes a bathroom break between sessions or after lunch, that anybody there with a disability who requires assistance with toileting can also enjoy a bathroom break, just like everybody else. Especially for winter events, making sure any guests, staff, volunteers with disabilities can get assistance getting their coat off when they arrive, get assistance getting their coat back on when they're departing. And again, just removing that friction of like stressing about who's going to help me do task XYZ, and I'm stressed about it and I'm not going to be able to relax and enjoy the event as much as everybody else. And there's about a billion other examples of how an attendant can help remove that friction.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I'm going to actually, when we share this, we're going to link to the Wimble Care Bridging Gaps in Disability Support and Event Accessibility article that was written by Abby Gardner from Invest Ottawa so that people can gain a little more information. And would it be okay with you if we share your contacts as well so people can reach out to you?
Absolutely. And I can also share a link to an article from the Ottawa Business Journal about how an individual with a disability, when he found out that Wimble was going to be available during the World Juniors, he upgraded his ticket package and spent a significant amount of money on a VIP package. So I think it's important for event planners to be aware this isn't just like a socially good thing to do. It can also be really good for your event's bottom line because more people will buy tickets and be able to enjoy the event.
That's fine. I mean, I think the social impact should be enough, but that is a great point when we're having to explain why we do things for our events. Miigwech for your time, for your knowledge, Emma. It was wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me, Bruce. I appreciate it.
Et voilà, merci d'être avec nous for this month's MPI Breaks.
See you next month with Mark Farget from Makatu Workshops, where we will discuss knowledge sharing.
See you at GMID.